¡Viva Menendez!
¡Viva!
¡Viva España!
¡Viva!
¡Viva el rey!
¡Viva!
¡Viva Asturias!
¡Viva!
¡Qué bueno!
¡Viva Chamuqua!
¡Viva! You may sit. Don Pedro has sat.
Performance we promise you in the future. Now, we are a small company of players.
That there's a stupid servant headed this way with rent money. Well, don't I look like the landlord type? Nothing to it. Get the money and I'm off to the card game at the tavern. Ah, here she comes. Señorita!
And
To me.
Are you the landlord?
Ah, the money goes right in this pocket.
Well, my mistress did say that you were the one. Here it is. All 15 silver
Ah,
coins.
that looks about right. Hand it over.
Here it is.
Ah,
Wait,
What for?
what for? The signs?
Huh?
My
The
mistress said
signs?
you're supposed to have a patch over an eye and a blimp when you walk.
Oh, well, if it's only that, all right. Here's the patch. Now hand it over.
You call that a patch?
Damn right.
Damn wrong.
I say it is a patch, and I don't care if it bothers you.
And to all the Spaniards that came over here in 1565 in Don Pedro Menendez. Viva España!
¡Viva!
Viva el rey!
¡Viva!
¡Viva Chamuqua!
It is September 8, 1574. Don Pedro Menendez de Avilés is in the port city of Santander on the northern coast of Spain. He has just returned from the greatest ceremony and celebration of his life. He has this day been named the Captain General of the largest armada Spain has ever yet prepared to put to sea. 400 ships, 30,000 soldiers, 6,000 sailors, all meant to go to Flanders to destroy all opposition to the crown of His Majesty, Felipe II, and that of the true faith, Catholicism. Pedro Menendez now takes time to dictate a letter with his loyal and lifelong friend and brother-in-law, Gonzalo Solis de Menes. It is a letter to his nephew, Don Pedro Menendez Marquez, acting governor of La Florida at Santa Elena, knowing that a copy will go to his patron, an ally, the most powerful sitting monarch in the world, El Rey, Philip II of Spain. What no one could know is that in 9 days, Pedro Menendez de Avilés would be dead. He is a victim of typhus, contracted this very day among the men of his fleet. Ladies and gentlemen, I present, I, Don Pedro.
Well, brother, one last task for His Majesty, God willing.
One last task, perhaps. But it seems His Majesty's perception is that you are reliable. And this, my brother, is interfering with your hopes and aspirations for Florida.
I admit, there have been delays, but we are greatly indebted to His Majesty.
His Majesty is greatly indebted to you, and you, as a result, are greatly indebted
To everyone between Sevilla and Veracruz, yes, I am well aware. Still, we will not defer blame or speak ill of His Majesty. Our concerns and considerations are trifles by comparison to His Majesty's concerns and considerations. He quite literally has the weight of the whole world on his royal brow.
Yes, but these trifles, as you call them, they mean the whole world to us. And failure in Florida would mean
Total failure! Certainly the loss of Florida, but total financial ruin for our families, as well as the fortunes of many friends. I have borrowed much. I have sold or bartered everything I have of value in this world for this dream of Florida. Yes, brother, I know what it means. And admittedly, it is no easy burden for this brow either.
Is that why you wish me to take a letter?
Yes. I need you to take a letter to my brother's son, Pedro Menendez Marquez. Florida.
We have attempted much in our enterprise in Florida.
Yes, but for now we are still there, where so many others have failed. We still have our settlements at San Agustin and Santa Elena. From there we can re-establish everything we have lost. Continue to explore the region and do our best to make allies of the people that live there. But I will get to that. For now, I need to send this letter to my nephew who governs Florida in my stead. He needs to know my mind. He needs to know my intention for Florida. He needs to know how we've come to this. And he needs to know that on this enterprise, everything depends, utterly. We are on the verge of winning or losing everything. But it's been that way my whole life. I was the younger son, 20 brothers and sisters. When my father died, and the hacienda was divided up among us heirs, we all ended up poor. Each of us had to make our own fortune by our own diligence and the grace of the Almighty. For my own way, I was impelled by the irresistible vocation of the sea. There were wars with France, and I signed on as a ship's boy under a false name, so they couldn't find me this time. I headed out with an armada that was going against the French pirate fleets. And I would be gone there for the next 2 years. When I returned, I sold part of my birthright, built a small ship, and with family and friends I convinced into it, including you, brother. We all became soldiers of fortune. It was in those decades that we became men.
You know, it was in those years you were first noticed by their majesties.
Yes. I was first assigned by His Majesty Carlos to take Philip, then Prince, to England to wed the Catholic Queen Mary. England. Cold, damp, dreary place. Still, I was able to get along well enough with the English court. Prior to that, it had been thought impossible for a Spaniard to do so. I served my prince well. And as a result, I was named Captain General of the Armada for Flanders. And that armada had a decisive influence on the victory against the French at San Quentin. That was the year that we stormed the guard tower at Dartmouth, cut the chains, saving the fleet from storm. Reminiscent of my own ancestor, Rui Perez de Aviles, who severed the Moorish chains across the Guadalquivir and Sevilla. It was also the year that we defeated Francois Leclerc, like a peg-leg pirate. We sent his ship to the bottom of the channel.
Oh, his ship, yes, but he escaped. I understand the French king made him a noble.
Every detail is not important, brother. Are you writing that down?
That every detail is not important.
No, but I don't want you to write that down either. I'm talking about him being made a noble.
No, brother. I'm only catching up to where you sank his ships.
Forgive me. I'm feeling warm. Not myself this evening. This ache reminds me of when I turned 40.
No, that was the year you were so afflicted in your house.
You recall that was the year that we crossed the whole of France in disguise. My son Juan and Sebastian de Estrada, my relative. We left Brussels and made it to Spain in just 7 days. And we're back in Flanders with an armada to return Philip to Spain as king. But it was then that I fell to a terrible illness.
You know, I still reason the cause was exhaustion.
Perhaps. Or the cold and damp of Flanders. Or more likely the French affinity for undercooked food I was forced to suffer as we made our way back to Spain. Still, I was reading for the next 10 months.
You know, His Majesty should be grateful for God that you recovered it all the way He pressed you to return.
Yet, despite my illness, I accepted the position as Captain General of the Armada for New Spain. I would serve in that position for the next 3 years. All was well until 1563. My only son Juan was returning to Spain from Veracruz as commander of the new Spain contingent. I had raised him up from a boy to be captain. But he left Havana for Spain in August of that year, in direct contradiction to my prohibition against sailing in that most dangerous season. His fleet was caught in a mighty storm, scattered far and wide. His captain was lost, along with my beloved son. There were rumors that the ship wrecked along the east coast of Florida, and as would with any father, my heart swelled that he may yet still be alive, lost somewhere in the wilderness of that peninsula. And so that hope persisted in my mind.
But then your arrest.
Yes, my arrest. My unjust arrest and imprisonment by the Casa de Contratación in Sevilla. To say that I was grief-stricken and frustrated would be a monumental understatement. After great and frustrating delays by envious and slanderous, inept bureaucrats at the House of Trade, I escaped to Valladolid and made my audience with the king.
Thank God.
I played my case, and in the end, he granted me a contract to go to Florida. Finally, I could look for my Juanito. Our adventures in Florida are well known, by now far and wide. God granted us a swift and total victory against the Lutherans. We established 7 settlements along the coast: San Agustin, San Mateo, Santa Lucia, Ais, San Antonio, Tocobaga, and Santa Elena. I made fast allies of the people in those lands, all except Satariba, that devil. He was still clearly under the spell of the heretic Lutherans, who he himself fought like. Still, from Tocobaga to Orista, we made allies with the rest, including the warlike cacique Carlos. We had returned to us over 100 castaways, some of whom had been in that wilderness for more than a decade.
Yes, but in none of these places was your Juan.
No. My beloved son was nowhere to be found. After searching Florida for any trace, I had to painfully admit that my son may never be found. The loss of Juan broke my heart, and with it my plans for him. It was then that I had to face the issue of my succession for my holdings in Florida and my rights under contract with the king. Of all my children, my favorite has always been my Anna. She was the best parts of her mother and I. Beautiful, talented, witty. And for me, I think her keen sense of perception. When we left Florida, she was engaged to be married to Don Pedro Menendez de Valdez, a son of the important Valdez clan of Gijón, one of the most powerful families in Asturias. Despite his request, I denied him a post in the enterprise because I did not want my Anna to suffer should any mishap befall him, and God forbid he be lost. He disobeyed me. Usually I'm not amused when I'm disobeyed.
See?
But I must admit, when they brought him before me as a stowaway in the Canary Islands, I was relieved. Rather than punish him, I made him maestro de campo, the field commander. Charged him with drilling the soldiers on our voyage. He was an indispensable leader in the enterprise of Florida. And I wrote as much to His Majesty. When he returned to Asturias, he and Ana were married with my great blessing. So when I created an entitled estate, I left everything to Ana. My second daughter, Catalina. She disgraced the family by marrying Orlando de Marinda without my permission, quite specifically against it. And for that, I disowned them both. No dowry, no place in my succession. My third child, Maria, God bless her, but she joined a convent in Avila and took a vow of poverty. I could leave her nothing, even if I had wanted. No, it was Ana in whom my hope of succession lay. How are we to know what evil awaited us? The death of one broke my heart, but the death of Ana, that was a greater prize than I think my heart can bear, even still. My Ana, murdered 3 years ago by her own father-in-law, the powerful and influential Juan Valdez, the mayor of Gijón. With the father's vengeance known but to God, I left no stone unturned to see that he and an accomplice were beheaded. The very same year that he killed my Ana. Forgive me, brother. With Ana and Juan gone to God, Catalina outcast, and Maria in a convent, my options for succession were few indeed. But there is still one. A second Maria, born outside of this household, but my natural-born daughter. It is she in whom my hope of succession lays now. Catalina. Perhaps on my deathbed I may be able to forgive her. But for now she is too disobedient, willful, insolent, stubborn.
Brother, I remember a young boy who was very much like this.
I admit it. She's like me in many ways. Too much like me, perhaps. But too much like me when I was 9 years old. I grew up. That one never has. No, it is my youngest Maria and her new husband, Don Diego Velasco, who because of her situation was no easy marriage to arrange. It is they that must fulfill the duties of my heirs in Florida. Florida. Saints preserve us.
Florida. So many millions have been spent in this conquest, with nothing to show for it but loss of life and unrealized profit.
Perhaps. But the plan is sound. Florida is still mine by contract, if not yet by physical control.
But brother, you must admit it has not been without difficulty, to say the least.
Difficulty? We have been beset on all sides by mutinies and rebellion from simple-minded fools who could not or would not realize the potential of that land. God help Spain and her kings if we are to persevere in any of these conquests. Still, the plan is sound. Currently, my contract with His Majesty has been expanded and extends from the borders of New Spain all the way around the peninsula, first claimed by Don Juan Ponce de Leon, northeast up the coast to the Grand Banks, coveted by Spanish, Portuguese, English and French fishermen alike. My own portion, with Santa Elena's capital, extends 2,500 leagues square. Brother, that's larger than the whole of Asturias. One Pardo has explored much of this. Now his mission to secure a route to the silver mines at Zacatecas in New Spain failed, but he did prove that a route over the mountains exists. And that route flows to the very doorsteps of New Spain.
Yes, but with the destruction of the forts built by Juan Pardo, how do you hope to secure that route now?
Indeed. This time I go myself. I send no one else on my behalf. With enough time and resources, I am confident in my abilities to pacify the people that burned down those missions and forts. We need those people as allies if we are to establish a secure treasure route through Florida. With our treasure route, the treasure fleets would leave from Santa Elena instead of Havana. They would avoid the dangers of the storms and hurricanes, as well as the French corsairs and English privateers that wait for anticipation more and more in those waters. Every need of the treasure fleet we would provide at a modest cost. Be sure to write modest.
Oh, si claro, but of course, senor.
Modest indeed. The money problems that have beset this enterprise from the very beginning would soon be over. Every creditor and partner repaid in full. This will be our redemption, brother. This will be our redemption in more ways than one.
Shall I write that?
About redemption?
Si.
No. In fact, start a new letter. To Pedro Menendez Marquez. Listen to me, nephew. There's one thing that I want you to know. May God see my heart and intentions for Florida. When my mission with the Armada, the subjugation of the heretics in Flanders, is completed for our king and for Spain, I have but one desire. After the salvation of my own soul, there is nothing in this world I desire more than to bring myself to Florida. And in my days there saving souls. Reporting to His Majesty the discontent I have from being away from Florida, he has done me the grace of telling me that whenever he may grant me license, he will, of very good will, allow me to go back to Florida. I hope to God he will do so in the spring. For I'm certain this winter the problem of Flanders will be resolved, and I will be free to go back to Florida, and to never leave Florida for as long as I live, because these are my wishes for happiness.
And if not?
If not, then I fear the type of colonies that we have dreamed of for Florida may never materialize. Nevertheless, perhaps our settlements at Santa Elena and San Agustin will live on as an indelible mark of our endeavors, our legacy, my legacy. I, Don Pedro Menendez de Aviles, heroic defender of Spain, or tyrant. your legacy as well, brother. Our legacy as Asturians, as Spaniards, as Floridianos, such as it may be. And only God knows what it will be. Praise be to Almighty God.
Praise be to God.
Let me sign. Alentado of Florida, Pedro Menendez. And now, my oldest friend, let me get some rest. I'm not feeling well this evening. And tomorrow comes early. And we still have much to do.
Much.
Buenas noches, amigo.
Buenas noches.